I had this really interesting chat with a client today about how their goal is to lose fat, and that all they thought was, you must be in a calorie deficit to lose fat, which is true. But when we kind of deep dive a little bit more into it, this person is kind of hitting a plateau at the minute with weight loss. So they've been through a good patch where they've lost some weight, and now they feel as though they're stalling on the scales, they can't see any more movement, and they need to kind of switch things up a little bit. And I think when someone starts in a fat loss journey, they can be very focused in on the scales, what it's telling them, and that can be their main motivator and driving force to keep going, because they're getting into a routine now with their food and their training, and it's working for them. They're seeing progress each day, each week, and that progress is coming from them seeing that drop off in the scales. So when someone hits a plateau in their weight loss, and they have been in a calorie deficit, they've been doing everything right in terms of their training, in terms of their nutrition, that's when things may need to be switched up a little bit. So people kind of really focus in on the calorie deficit. It's great that people are understanding now, that the whole process of kind of losing fat and dropping weight is that you need to be in a calorie deficit. But I think it's important then, when you come to a certain stage, if you hit a plateau, that you need to maybe readjust the way that you're training. For this person in particular, they were doing a lot of maybe high intensity cardio style training. So what we advise for them is to kind of change up their routine a little bit, focus more on tension style training, so resistance style training, to kind of stimulate muscle growth. And this muscle growth stimulation is going to help obviously grow muscle, but it's also going to help tone up the body composition that you have there from the process of weight loss that you've already achieved. And that's kind of where people aren't sure of, when they hit that plateau phase, they're kind of getting a little bit downhearted because they're not seeing the progress they were on the scales. And that's where you will hit a stage where you're not going to see as much progress come on the scales, but you might see it in other areas where you're gaining more muscle, you're training differently in terms of maybe resistance style training, you're adding that in more, and then you're having the mix of cardio in there as well to kind of benefit your health and your heart health, your cardiovascular fitness as well. So I think it's important to kind of understand these things as well, not to kind of solely use the scales as your progress validator, and that when you hit a plateau, it's not all doom and gloom, in terms of you're not seeing the drop off on the scales. There's other metrics you can look at, there's other ways that you can adapt your nutrition and your training, and to not always just focus on a calorie deficit, trying to focus on what you're doing within that calorie deficit in terms of the quality and content of food that you're eating. So you might need to increase your protein intake if you are changing up your training style. So if you're doing more weightlifting, doing more resistance style training, you're going to need the protein intake to kind of help you recover, and to help you stimulate that muscle